I was saying to Aggie before, I'm a massive fan of the Egyptians.
Oh, Manchester Museum has an amazing Egyptology department.
Yeah, but I reckon I lived amongst them in a previous life.
You never know.
Well, me and my mate, we used to do ancient healing at festivals. I'd do the foot reading and she'd do her Nehru foot. I remember the words exactly because she had them printed on a T-shirt.
Nehru foot?
It sounds exotic. What does it mean?
Shepherd of the anus. Isn't that beautiful?
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
Hello and welcome to episode 238 of The Talk of the Street, an unofficial Coronation Street catch-up podcast that brings us Summer's going to have a long, hard think before she can agree to continue with the surrogacy plans after all this nonsense. I'm Gavin.
And I have thoughts.
You have thoughts?
Yes. Dirty, filthy thoughts.
Oh, well.
And also...
is this the right podcast?
And also disappointed thoughts.
Oh.
When it comes to Coronation Street.
Okay. How are you this week?
I'm good. I'm nearly done with this book auction, getting it together and everything, and just very exciting times. And I was cataloging 60s and 70s exploitation movie posters in Turkish today, and that was fun.
Bet you never thought you'd hear that sentence today.
Like the poster for Black Mama, White Mama, starring Pam Grier.
They all starred Pam Grier, didn't they?
And then Mr. Hercules versus Karate.
Anything that we've heard of?
Not in that bunch.
Not in that bunch.
Not in that bunch. But still, it's fun, and every day I'm finding things that I'm like, oh, where the heck did they get this?
Is this just shit that's just lying about?
Well, people bring things to us. They can sign things with us. And the largest bunch comes from this guy who recently broke up with his wife and was moving away. So
his wife wasn't Pam Grier, was it?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because we'd have a scoop if that was the case.
But earlier in the week, I was doing this lot of maps, and one of the maps that he had was like a survival map put out by the U.S. military of Iran. So,
Was it just don't go to Iran?
No, if you're in Iran already...
Get out of Iran?
And you're stuck in the middle of nowhere, it helps you get out, and it also tells you the plants that you can eat and which ones to avoid and things like that. So, and it's where the hell did he get this? Where did this come from?
I wonder if they have staircases in the middle of nowhere in Iran.
Probably. They have them here.
Apparently they're spooky.
They can be.
Don't go up them.
No. Remember that antique store in Bay City had stairs to nowhere.
Oh, but these are stairs to nowhere in the middle of nowhere. Not stairs to nowhere in Bay City, Michigan.
You mean
although it can feel like the middle of nowhere. Sorry, Bay City. And
also not like the stairs to nowhere that are in the basement of our church. Because there's stairs to nowhere in the basement of our church.
No, the bit that you seem to be refusing to hear is in the middle of nowhere.
So they're outside.
In the middle of nowhere, in the woods.
Why would there be stairs outside? Typically
That's the whole point. That's why it's spooky.
You're walking in the woods and you find a foundation in the middle of nowhere. Or a stove, a wood stove or fireplace.
I think this is what they are. I think they're the remnants from buildings that aren't there anymore.
Right.
Or art installations, or just things to help people get up a little bit higher than they were before, sort of thing. Like
that guy in Sweden who builds trolls in the middle of nowhere. Big, massive trolls.
Except stairs. Just like a flight of stairs.
In the middle of nowhere.
Apparently there's a Reddit for it, so it must be a thing.
Very, very. I find them creepier.
There's a creepypasta about it.
I
As the
find
kids are saying.
I find them creepier inside buildings, stairs to nowhere. Because they used to go somewhere, and now they go nowhere. And it's dark at the top because there's nowhere for light to come in.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, these ones are in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. The ones in our church, underneath them is a little hidey hole where that homeless man lived for a while before they discovered that there was a homeless man living in the basement of the church. Like Harry Potter. Under the stairs. Well, technically, I would think that Harry Potter, because he lived in his aunt and uncle's house, but it wasn't his home. They certainly didn't allow him to feel like it was his home.
They gave him shelter and they fed him.
Yeah, and also physically and mentally abused him.
Yeah, they probably deserved it. Anyway, shall we preamble, my dear?
How was your week?
Oh, who cares? Give us some of that exploitative Corrie news.
I care. I care about your week.
This is the highlight of it, so.
I wouldn't ask otherwise. Molly Winnard, who played dastardly Kayla Clifton on Corrie, say that 3 times fast.
I'll make do with you saying it one time slow.
Is getting heaps of praise for her new role as Joanna Hepton on the crime drama Happy Valley on BBC One. And
I've
apparently,
been hearing lots of good things about Happy Valley.
so have I. Who knew that it was like a show quite some time ago and then had like a 12-year hiatus, and now they've come back for their last season? That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But I've been hearing really good things. So it tempts me to get on the old VPN and visit my house in the British Isles and watch television.
The last time that something had this impact that made me watch something religiously was The Traitors.
Right. Hold on to that thought. Because Molly isn't the only Corrie alum on the acclaimed drama. Sarah Lancashire, who plays Sergeant Catherine Kaywood, is no stranger to the cobbles herself, having played Raquel Watts and Wendy Farmer on Corrie. She played 2 roles. Most people just remember her as Raquel, but she was Wendy first. And she plays like the sergeant cop person.
She's the main person, isn't it?
Right. But Molly Winnard, who played Kayla, the character that she plays, is the one that has been abused and stuff. And so it's a really tough role. And apparently she's doing a cracking job at it.
It's also got, or it used to have Julie Hesmondhaugh in it, who famously Haley.
Yes. Did you see that post somebody made that supposedly Kim Kardashian bought Haley's anorak?
Is that
for
where it is?
like $1.5 million? And some people believed it, and some people who follow Kim Kardashian, who have no idea what Coronation Street is like, what is this?
This might explain our peak in numbers this week. There was no peak in numbers.
There was no peak in numbers.
There was one because John listened.
Oh, yes. Our friend John, who has not yet called tonight.
I'm hoping not to, because we were at the Corrie News part last week when he called.
Right.
I'm hoping that he has watched Coronation Street this week.
John Welch.
And
John
decides
Welch.
to give us a call.
That's the part that freaked me out the most, is the computer voice shouting John Welch at us. That was creepy. And finally, the busiest working actor on the street, Mr. Jude Reardon, has announced he has a new role in the short film Hidden, directed by Paul Reardon and produced by Cusp Films, coming to a film festival near you, hopefully. The very best of Nepo babies in this time of Nepo babies.
I don't know what Nepo baby is.
Nepotism baby.
Okay. I still don't know what that is.
So it's like actors who have famous parents or parents in the business, and that's kind of how they got an elevation enough to start their own careers. And some Nepo babies just are Chet Hanks, but, you know, some are also Jamie Lee Curtis and Jude Reardon, 2 very fine actors who are worthy of all of the roles that they get. 2 of my favorite actors, Jude Reardon and Jamie Lee Curtis.
Right.
They both start with J.
One day
One day we'll see the two of them together. Hopefully not right now because I believe Jamie Lee Curtis still has COVID. But
And probably Halloween commitments.
and that's Corrie news. Is it Halloween is ended?
Just before we finish the Corrie news, just a last little bit of sad breaking Corrie news,
Oh,
which
no.
was the passing away of Eliza Cowley, who played the surrogacy consultant
What?
lady from a couple of weeks ago. Yeah,
She's-
apparently she had cancer for some time, but she passed away
Oh no.
yesterday, I believe. So that was very young.
And very recent.
Yeah,
That's horrible.
sad stuff. Our thoughts are with
Her family.
her family.
And
Absolutely.
friends.
Yeah, sad stuff.
Absolutely. Too many young people dying these days. Or younger people.
Right.
And also older people. Because David Crosby died and he was no young un.
Certainly not. And now, let's podcast for coffee. Thanks to Kiwi Blair for our coffees this week.
Thank you, Kiwi Blair. Does that Kiwi? That's New Zealand, yes?
Correct.
It was a Kiwi. That's all that I remember from that song. When in my youth, I was a Girl Scout counselor at a camp, and there was a girl from New Zealand who taught us lots of different songs about Kiwis and other things.
No refunds, Kiwi Blair. I'm afraid you've paid, so no refunds.
Also, my friend Meg lives in New Zealand, so I like New Zealand.
Kiwi Blair says, sometimes Corrie storylines do strain your credulity. Thank goodness for the talk of the street to keep us going. Have a coffee each to keep you going. Thank you so much,
Thank
Kiwi
you.
Blair. We really appreciate that.
Thank you very much. I'm drinking iced tea. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking a Coke Zero Cherry Vanilla.
Ooh, fancy.
The Talk of the Street is and always will be free on your podcast provider and on the YouTubes. But if you think a show is worth anything more than the time it takes to listen to it, and if you want to show your appreciation, you can buy us next week's coffees by heading to ko-fi.com, that's ko-fi.com/The Talk of the Street, and we will be very appreciative, won't we, Helen?
Yes.
And also, this is what happened to me this week. My former publisher, the former publisher of my novel, The Scottish Book of the Dead,
Yes.
just returned 7 copies of it
Right, in a
in
hospital
a
bag.
hospital bag
Not creepy at all.
and dumped them in a garage.
And then, like, an hour or so after the fact, texted me and let me know.
Texted you about dumping my book
Yes.
in a hospital bag
in our
my
garage.
So this book is no longer available through Amazon, I don't think.
Huh?
So if anybody wants a copy of this,
It's good.
buy us a coffee.
There's a sinkhole in it.
Buy us a coffee. Let us know if you want a copy of the book. We can get into some correspondence. Give me your address and I'll send you a copy. There you go. So with every coffee bought through Ko-Fi, free book.
We may ask you to help with shipping to the United Kingdom or New Zealand
There's
or
only
Australia
7 copies of it.
or
So
Canada. Actually, Canada shouldn't be too bad.
I'm sure we can swing it. Anyway, and now this.
Welcome.
Welcome to Last Year Tonight with me, John Oliver. Just enough time to quickly talk about Craig Bakes Bread.
Was this is when Craig was like getting a little stir crazy and he was baking bread until he found Dead Ted's cane, and then he decided instead of baking bread he was going to search the provenance of said cane.
That's right, this was Bernie, surprised to learn that she didn't have lifted the last fiver from the cookie tin to buy a loaf of bread. I was Gavin and you were Alina Teeny Weeny. I don't know what that was.
I don't either.
Good stuff. We were starting to get cocky about avoiding the COVID. Check
Yes.
back in 3 or 4 months' time to see how that worked out.
I'm still cocky.
I am no longer cocky. Even with Joseph home, Chesney and Gemma's woes continue while Bernie stumbles upon a potential solution to their problems. Amy is inspired to take action on Summer's upskirt incident and gets creative with a tin of paint and a school wall. Yasmin remains unmoved by apologies from Alia and Zidane and calls on some agency staff to help Home Stew cope with Speed Dial's legendary lunchtime rush. Craig busies himself while he's stuck at home by spying on his friends and neighbours and driving his flatmates mad. Sinkhole Leo gets tickets for a gig and introduces Jenny to his awful housemates. Remember those awful housemates?
Oh, God, they were so awful.
Which makes Jenny worry about the age difference.
I miss them.
They were that awful?
Well, because look at what we have now.
Right. Tim still can't find the right moment to tell Sally about his health issues while her imagination runs riot and takes drastic measures to keep tabs on her husband's whereabouts. Peter's t-shirt has a 2 in it. Bryn hasn't seen Caris's trousers, and Hope invests in sweeties. Our moment of the week was Amy leading Summer, Asha and Addie in their protests against the school's attitude to upskirting, and our boring moment of the week was Summer's Instagram open letter. Oh, I remember that.
Oh, God.
Jeez. The signs were there.
The signs were
The
there.
signs have always been there.
Yes.
And that was Coronation Street and the talk of the street, this time last year. Shall we dive in, my dear?
Well, I suppose we'd better.
Let's start this week's festivities
Yes.
with Summer Shandy.
Really? Mm-hmm. We're going to start with this shit?
Yep.
All right.
On Monday, Summer has spent overnight in a nursery and has smeared "fuck you, Mike" in her own shit on the walls.
If only.
She shouts to Mike that she needs insulin or she's going to die. Mike doesn't believe her or doesn't want to believe her and tells her that he can't risk her talking to Esther by letting her out.
Yeah. What is the long game here, Mike? Because you can't leave her in that nursery forever.
He seems to realise this a little later on.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, she doesn't need to just eat something, which is another thing he says, and then doesn't give her anything to eat and gives her an energy drink instead.
Is that what that was?
It's
I
like...
thought it was a small tin of paint. You might as well finish painting the nursery while you're in here.
Oh, God.
Where is the Mike of yesteryear? Because the Mike, when he was giving Billy a bit of swagger, seemed to have a bit of knowledge about him. He never seemed to be a fool.
No, he seemed
But at several points during this, he's a complete moron.
He is so stupid. It makes Summer look smart.
Meanwhile, Aaron has gone to see Billy. He's worried because he hasn't seen Summer, and Billy has no idea where she is either. No one's seen her for days, it turns out. When Billy checks the insulin app, he sees that the reading was high last night, and now there's nothing.
Nothing. Which does not make sense, because her phone is dead. Her phone being dead should not affect the app.
Well, let me think about this.
Because the monitor is on her body, not on her phone. So her phone dying shouldn't affect other people who have the app.
So her phone essentially is a cell phone. Her monitor.
Yeah, her smartphone, yeah.
But the monitor, the pump thing, is broadcasting.
Right. But it's not just broadcasting to her phone. It's broadcasting to Billy and Aaron's phones as well.
And presumably then all phones.
Well, no, because you have to give permission.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you had the permission, you would pick up the signal.
Right. So her phone being dead should not have cut off Billy's signal, or Aaron's signal, is what I'm saying. And yet somehow it has.
Later.
Because writers on this show don't understand technology.
I can give them a pass that they don't care about that.
No, because then it would be a big, huge, massive plot hole.
Later, Summer hasn't spent any of her time finishing painting the nursery. Just, damn it, Summer. Mike shouts that he can't let Esther find out about his baby boy. He insists his heart is breaking for everyone in this situation, and everyone is pretty much sucking here, especially Summer. Mike realises that he's kind of up to his tits and all this now, but gives her a tin of juice just as he notices Aaron coming up the driveway. So Mike intercepts Aaron at the door and tells him that Summer isn't there. She's off into town with Esther, and Aaron takes this at face value and turns and walks away.
In fairness, Aaron does say, okay, well, give me Esther's number. Why doesn't he have Esther's number already? Esther was going to buy his baby. He should have her number. And also later on, Billy should have her number because Billy's her vicar person.
I also think that Mike should probably be able to recite Esther's number, but he doesn't want to give.
He doesn't want to give the number because then his lie would be found out.
Right.
But Aaron does seem to twig that it's weird that he won't give him her number.
Summer
he should already
slams
have.
her plimsoll on the window again, but it's too little, too late, and her vision goes that wonky way it does before she passes out. So when Mike goes to her next, she's flat out on the nursery floor. He panics, doesn't call 999, and is shoveling sugar into her mouth when Esther comes back.
He's dabbing sugar on her lips. He doesn't even have her mouth pried open. It's just dabbing it on her, because you can see it. You can see the sugar on her lips later on. And it's like, what are you doing? What is going
Now,
What
to
is
be fair,
going on here?
if you were to collapse in a diabetic coma,
Right, which would never happen.
I wouldn't know what to do.
But you wouldn't
But I
dab
certainly
sugar on my
wouldn't-
lips.
I wouldn't dab condiments on your lips, no.
No. You
The
would
sugar's not worked. Where's the gravy granules? Let's try the gravy granules.
you would call an ambulance.
Yes. Back at Billy's, something about his exchange with Mike doesn't sit right with Aaron, and he tells Billy and Paul that something's rotten here. Meanwhile, Esther's taking charge of the situation, calls Mike a fucking idiot, and calls an ambulance, warning Mike if Summer dies, it's his fault. And I'm like, yeah, I think we're all clear on this.
Well, I don't know. Mike kind of doesn't seem all that clear.
Billy and Aaron are so concerned about Summer that they go to the cafe for a sausage sandwich. Then Todd comes in and eventually tells them about what he found out last week about Ava, and this raises their suspicion so much they order another round of coffees. So Summer is rushed into hospital, Mike giving Summer's name as Davina Latte. What the fuck?
And the Oscar goes to Davina Latte.
For La La Land. Apparently an orphan friend of theirs through the church, which makes me wonder if there really is a Davina Latte that's an orphan that goes to their church. Because why would you think Davina Latte? Why would that be the first name that comes to your mind?
I don't understand why Esther is going along with this is the problem, because she's already twigged that he's a fucking idiot who almost killed this 18-year-old girl by dabbing sugar on her lips.
Aggie, though, thankfully she's working all the hours God sends, so she's there and she sees it and she gets on the phone to Billy just as soon as she's had a spot of lunch.
Right, yes, because earlier in the episode, Aggie bumped into Todd on the street and they had a conversation where Todd said, "Have you seen Summer? Because we're looking for Summer and we're very concerned." Which is like the first time Todd and Aggie have had a conversation in like years.
Forever, probably.
Right, yes. And Todd makes a tasteless joke about telling Aggie that they're full up, so slow down on killing people in the hospital.
Yeah, don't be killing anybody, Aggie.
Hilarious.
Billy, Paul and Aaron land on the hospital and Aggie explains about the weird couple who brought Summer in, and just at that, Mike and Esther arrive from the coffee machine and they have a lot of explaining to do.
Well, no, they're back from the cafeteria because the coffee machine, as you
it's fine.
rightly pointed out,
Was out of order.
is out of order.
Mike says that Aggie must have misheard, but Aggie's still there and says, "I don't fucking think so, pal, and you can check the notes if you want any clarity on this."
Because the doctor wrote down Davina Latte on all the forms.
Latte as in the coffee? Yes.
Yes.
Davina as in Davina McCall? Yes.
Yes.
Todd arrives, and in the ensuing arguments, he tells Esther about Mike's secret love child, and before she storms off, she tells the dads that Mike imprisoned Summer in the nursery. Todd, Billy, Paul and Aaron are allowed to see Summer later, who is talking to the police about calling off the surrogacy after she found out about the affair. She tells the gang that she was worried that she was going to die. "Never a dull moment," says Billy, and they all laugh.
Ha.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo!
This reminds me
There was something very Scooby about that shot of Summer in bed with
Right.
everyone standing round about it.
It reminded me of that time my mom was in a parade and she fell off of the farm cart that she was riding in the parade, and then the farm cart ran her over.
Yeah, hilarious.
Because this is exactly the mood with her in the hospital. We were like, only you, Mom. And then she started singing Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer, only she sang Grandma Got Run Over by a Farm Cart. And we all laughed and laughed about the fact that my mother was in the hospital because she got run over by a farm cart.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo! On Wednesday, Billy, Aaron and Paul are with Summer in hospital when the police arrive, explaining that a complaint has been made against her for extorting money for a baby that didn't exist. Billy protests her innocence, but Summer has to look shifty as fuck because she's guilty as hell about this.
Right. But apparently everyone has forgotten that this wasn't the legal surrogacy that we're talking about. This is the illegal attempt of Mike and Esther to buy a baby. So first of all, there's that. And second of all, no matter what Summer did, that doesn't cancel out Mike kidnapping her and almost killing her in a nursery.
No, but
one
the fact
shouldn't cancel out the other. And the way that the cop is like, well, we're looking into it, but they're telling a very different story.
Well, both things have to be investigated.
Right.
Because both people have broken the law here. One is a little bit more serious than the other.
Right.
But still.
But also, those people in throwing Summer under the bus, or the farm cart, if you will,
No, the bus.
are also throwing themselves under the bus because they were trying to illegally buy a baby. That's 2 strikes against them, and nobody seems to care here.
Later, in the community garden, Paul confides in Todd about the allegations against Summer. Todd blames himself for her incarceration at Mike's hands. Paul promises not to let Summer down again. Back in the hospital, Billy's on Tinder. When he goes off for a sandwich, it turns out Mike has been lurking behind the curtains, and he makes his move when the coast is clear. How long has he been standing there?
How did Billy not see him? Because, it was almost immediate, him coming around that corner.
And that is
And
why.
there was a curtain.
That is why Billy was definitely on the Tinder. His mind was elsewhere.
And also his Bobby.
He apologises for what he did, but says that she wasn't innocent in all this. She claims that she wasn't trying to get money out of them for a baby that didn't exist. Let's call it quits and retract her statement, says Mike, but Summer tells them to go to hell.
She really does.
And then for some reason, Mike closes the curtains and tries to talk around while insisting that he's not going to hurt her. But why did you close the curtains? And he closed the curtains so that Todd could pull the curtain back and be surprised to see Mike. When the curtain could have been closed because the doctor's examining Summer or whatever, but Todd just throws the curtains open.
I think Todd heard Mike's voice.
I think you're giving him way more benefit
Also,
than he deserves.
Mike
there.
was most definitely threatening her, so that's why he closed the curtain. Where is the staff in this hospital?
Where's Aggie?
Who let
She's
him
still
in?
on her lunch. Mike does a runner. Paul and Todd give chase, and they end up chasing Mike back to his house. Paul kind of threatens Mike. Mike basically explains that Summer had the upper hand and was playing him and Esther for mugs.
Oh, yes.
And then he calls Paul a paedophile. So Paul pushes him down, causing Mike to bash his head on the doorstep. And a potential headwind of the week. Headwind? After week?
Well, yes. This is possibly our
Potential.
headwind. It's our potential headwind of the week. Okay.
It was definitely the headwind of Wednesday.
So Max and Alia get blown out of vehicles by bombs and are fine.
Alia walks home.
But people get pushed and are immediately down for the count.
Well, you know what it's like, Helen. When you get pushed, you never put your hands out to break your fall.
Right. No, of course not.
Especially when you're near your own doorstep.
Right. And especially when your head is heading towards the brick step.
Off the doorstep.
Right. Yes. This is it's like bombs are not dangerous, but other people's hands pushing you forward. But it's just like with homeless Stu's daughter, who murdered someone by hitting them over the head with a ceramic dog.
Well remembered.
But bombs can't kill you. Only ceramic dogs and Paul.
That's what the song says. That had to have been one of the least suspenseful cuts to break that there's been, because one, Mike's not dead,
No.
and two, even if he was, I don't care.
Right. Yeah, because he starts stirring right then instead of waiting until after the commercial break. Who's writing this stuff?
So Todd calls an ambulance, and then he and Paul jump back into Paul's van and drive off, leaving Mike to bleed out.
Ed's van, if we're going to be specific.
Sure. Back in the hospital, Billy finally gets back with his fucking sandwiches. Summer explains what happened and then announces that she's caused nothing but grief. Sandwich? Offers Billy.
Egg and cress.
In the pub, Todd realises that this whole affair must have been triggering for Paul after the whole Kel stuff. Paul admits that it's always on his mind and always has been, except for when he was with Billy. Gulp, says Todd.
Yes.
And back home, Aaron can't believe that all this happened. Yeah, neither can I. Summer wonders if this means that she has to cancel her fertility appointment for tomorrow. Leaving the pub, Paul and Todd run into the cops, who have seen the van near the scene of a brutal assault. Paul is in the middle of shouting about how Mike had it coming when Todd takes responsibility, calling it a moment of madness, and so the cops arrest Todd and cart him off. On Friday, Esther has turned up at Billy's flat to tell him that Mike has dropped the extortion charge against Summer, but still wants to get Todd done for assault. Seems she and Mike are no longer an item, would you believe? Summer, wearing a jumper that makes her look like a Teletubby nightmare, begs Esther to convince Mike to let it go. And I forgot to mention in the previous scene that this was a nice little bit of development for Todd,
Right.
to do something that was selfless,
Right.
and something that's a kind of compensation for how badly he's treated Paul and Billy in the past.
Right.
That this is kind of payback for
Right.
being that shitbag.
And it also means that Todd and Paul are totally going to hook up
You think so?
and fuck. Yes.
Okay. That's what that means.
That's totally what that
It's
means.
a tale as old as time.
Yes.
So Todd gets out of the jail and is back on the street to find that George is furious with him and accusing him of tarnishing the business's reputation. And he just lets Paul go. Says,
You mean Todd?
what did I say?
You said Paul.
He lets Paul go as well. Then Paul appears and tries to talk George round, but Todd tells Paul to leave it. Just you leave it.
Just-
And in his roles, Summer pleads Todd's case to George, but he's still not for budging. Bernie correctly wonders what Eileen will say about all this, and
Yes.
George shits his breeks a little bit, but still sticks to his guns. So Paul sits down and comes clean.
I can't wait for Eileen to come back with a lovely tan.
Right. Later, George finds a drunken Todd in the Rovers and apologises now that he knows the truth from Paul. Todd did it because he owed Paul, but it turns out Paul is on his way to the Nick to confess himself. So Todd runs after Paul, stops him at the tram stop. They agree that Summer needs them both in their lives, and her life, just as Summer arrives after speaking with Craig, who has probably ignored all the protocols to tell her that Mike has dropped the assault charges against Todd.
Right.
Plus,
Off
Summer
screen.
has some exciting news to share later.
Oh, no. Is she
And-
pregnant again?
Back at the flat, the exciting news is that she's going to reapply for university. Billy is cock-a-hoop. Nothing says reapply to Oxford like being kidnapped by the bloke you were going to surrogate for after you defrauded him and his wife by selling them a miscarried baby so you could pay for your boyfriend's alcoholic dad's rehab that he didn't want.
In fairness, the baby wasn't miscarried yet when they got their first payment.
But for their second payment, it was.
True.
Later, George goes to see Todd at Eileen's and tells him that he's a good guy now for what he did for Paul, and he's got his job back.
I'm really confused because the house is dark and George says, "What are you doing here?" And Todd says, "Mom asked me to water the plants." And George said, "Well, she asked me too." And everybody seems to forget that Sean and Mary also live in that house. Where are they? Are they okay? Because they live there so they can water the plants. Are they? Where's Mary? Because we do see Sean later. We don't see Mary at all this week. Is she okay?
I assume so. So that's
Has
as far
someone
as we get
done
with that
something to
storyline.
Mary? That's all I care about. Yes.
So everything that's happened after Summer saying that she isn't going to go to university,
Has led back to her going to university after all.
we can essentially ignore all that. It's the season of Dallas when Bobby's in the shower. I was hoping for something to develop out of this, but I was hoping for it not to be Summer just deciding to go back to Oxford or apply for Oxford. Presumably she's applying for Oxford, even though she didn't have the grades and she cheated at exams and all that sort of stuff.
Right, yeah. So when she have to take those exams again?
Oh God, remember that? How bad that was?
Oh, that was terrible. She nearly got Addie into trouble
Right.
because the racist people in that school were believing her over the brown kid.
Right.
That would have been a storyline worth exploring. Racism in the schools.
I mean, let's be fair to the show. It did give us some Summer lines that were, I'm glad that she's saying this. I'm glad she was saying that she's caused nothing but grief for
Yes.
everyone. I'm glad she said she's been so stupid.
Yes.
Because
She has.
she has been for months now.
Yes. I don't like people saying to her, oh, no, it's okay.
And Billy was kind of the worst for it.
Yes. And he's typically the worst for it.
Just ignoring everything that's gone on, basically.
Right. Yeah. And not being.
And keeping on calling her, she's a child and she's been
Manipulated.
She's an adult. She's 18 years old.
Right. Yeah. That prefrontal cortex still hasn't sealed, though. But he's been a bad dad. The things that he's saying makes him a bad dad and a bad vicar. Neither one of his two jobs are coming into play in this storyline. They will sort of come into play in another storyline.
Oh, but with a bag load of irony thrown at it.
Right, yes, and also bad results.
Right.
But we'll get to that.
Another death on your conscience, Billy. There was so many bits about that hospital scene from Wednesday that just was Mike appearing out of nowhere.
Right.
Some are saying that she wasn't trying to get money out of them from a baby that didn't exist, when she absolutely was.
The baby existed, it was just dead.
I don't know if I'd be paying money for that.
No, definitely not. But, I mean, let's not forget the sugar dabbed on her lips on Monday. And just every face Mike pulled this week, every single face that Mike pulled this week put Steve's Muppet face to shame.
I don't know how fast Paul was driving that van, but he fairly gained ground driving back to a house that he doesn't know where it is. Mm-hmm. Because when Mike was still locking his car in his own driveway, and Paul was right behind him, but that little jumpy surprise when he notices it. This is what the show does, though. It has characters that are
terrible,
reasonably intelligent people, or give an impression of being that way when it suits them. But just the easiest way to wind stories down is to make people idiots and do idiotic things.
He was already kind of an idiot. That one time he stood up to Billy was more because Esther was there.
But
I think it's more Esther than Mike, who is the smart one, and it fortifies him to have her around. And every time he said that stupid thing about, oh, I lied to you to protect you because you were so frail, you wouldn't have been able to withstand the fact that not only did I sleep with another woman, but I got her pregnant too. You know, it's like, she's not wearing a corset. She's not going to faint. You don't need to get the smelling salts out.
Or the sugar dabs. She's
not this fragile little flower. She's a grown woman. And
I don't know. I think before that, he had a sense of being a kind of Machiavellian character and having some kind of scheme in mind here, and then
again,
it just kind of fell to pieces.
it kind of felt like it was when he was joined with Esther that he was Machiavellian, because she was Machiavellian as well. But then once
She's coming out of this smelling pretty well.
she is, which is
Not too sure how happy I'm about that.
yeah, because she was creepy as hell. Remember the fetal monitor that she just whipped out of her bag and said, "I'm going to put this on your belly."
She had the baby fever big time.
Yeah, that was really creepy.
Oh,
Anyway,
well, it seems to be over for now.
yeah.
We'll be
Todd
going
and
back
Paul, though, totally going to hook up. Totally going to happen. It's already been hinted that 2 of the 3 of them are going to get back together. And I honestly, because Billy doesn't deserve either one of them.
No, I'd be quite happy with Todd and Paul, and then for them both to move away. Except I like Todd when he's with George.
Right. And I like Paul when he's with his family.
And Ed. He's good with Ed as well.
He's good with Ed, and he's good with Gemma
All right.
and Bernie.
Let's move on, because we've been talking about that for long
And
enough.
I guess Chesney.
Who?
Chauncey.
There we go. Our next storyline this evening is Densest fur in the animal kingdom.
What?
You've got to respect that. On Monday, Sam and Hope are chatting about John Stape, reminding us all of the tape that she has of his voice, but
The
it's
Stape
left her
tape.
with so many questions. At home, Hope has had an early departure from school because of a leaky pipe or something. She asks what John Stape's favourite dinner was, but Fizz doesn't want to talk about it. And when Hope listens to her tape, the recorder chews it up, and not realising what's happened or how to fix it, because she's like 10.
Right.
She runs away, distraught.
2023.
So Fizz calls Tyrone to have a look at it, worried that she didn't handle the question about John Stape's favourite dinner very well. Tyrone fixes the tape and then presses play. Ty's confused, but Fizz recognises a voice. Turn it off, Ty. Turn it off. So the two of them are taken back by all this, hearing this voice from beyond the grave. And
Beyond the grave.
It even takes them a minute to figure out where she got the tape from. Hope isn't answering her phone, so they decide that she must be with Sam, and they go round to Nick's. So, coaxed by Nick and Fizz, Sam agrees to grass Hope right up, explaining that she just wanted to get to know her dad a bit better, and this tape was the only way she could do that, especially as Fizz never wants to talk about it. Parent of the year. You're a good friend to Sam, says Fizz. How'd you fancy having a go at being her mum?
You're a good friend to Hope.
Yeah.
Not Sam, because he is Sam.
Yes. At home, Hope is amazed to find that she's not in trouble, but she's further amazed when she's presented with the rest of the Stape shite that the journalist amassed and handed back that has now, for the last few weeks, been in Gemma's house.
How on earth did that journalist get that picture of John Stape and Fizz that looked like a personal picture?
Got it from the Coronation Street archives.
Ah.
Hope is cock-a-hoop. And now Fizz has to listen to the tapes and handle the questions that she's been avoiding for years, such as John's favourite dinner, his favourite animal. Fizz lands on Cat, but maybe let's don't investigate that too much.
No.
Their song was I'll Be Missing You by Puff Daddy, or P. Diddy, and Hope hasn't a fucking clue what she's talking about.
Which is weird, because Diddy is still a thing.
Nah, I can see that Hope wouldn't have a clue.
Or is it just Sean Combs now?
Who cares? He hasn't been relevant in about 20 years, so...
Well, he's still relevant as a producer.
Wednesday, then, Tyrone, Fizz... I've got Cher written down here. Who's Cher?
Cher?
Cher
She's a
and
singer.
Gemma are having pints in the pub.
I can see it happening.
I must have been Chauncey. And the John Stape stuff, and Hope's desire to know her family. This makes them all reminisce, particularly Chesney, about Les and Schmeichel, his dog. And this gets Tyrone thinking.
I'm just imagining Chesney in the big head dress and bikini thing that Cher wore to the Oscars that one time.
See, I'm imagining Chauncey sitting on a cannon on an aircraft carrier. I don't know why.
Because he'd like to turn back time.
So back home, Tyrone floats the idea of the girls getting a pet to give them the love that he and Fizz's parents are incapable of providing. Thrilled by the suggestion, Hope and Ruby and Tyrone head off to pet shops that don't exist anymore.
To get a fish.
Fizz shouts at them to get a fish, but instead, Tyrone and the girls come home with a chinchilla. Densest fur in the animal kingdom, you've got to respect that. And they call it Scylla, the chinchilla. What the very fucking hell is that, says Fizz. And she's furious, knowing that she'll be the one left to clean out the cage, but Hope has been given that responsibility, or the chinchilla will be flushed. Hope introduces herself to Scylla the chinchilla Dobbs, and calls herself Hope Dobbs, and the fact that she's agreed to change her name is enough to satisfy Father of the Year, Tyrone. And he's quite pleased.
Yes, he is. And then Hope is nasty to poor Ruby, saying that she's not allowed to hold the chinchilla, even though the
Ever.
chinchilla was for both of them.
Right. On Friday at the factory, Fizz hasn't slept well thanks to Scylla the nocturnal chinchilla. Apparently it shits for England. Sally is worried about Fizz and Tyrone getting their hold for some reason.
And also, Sally doesn't know that goldfish are carp.
So when Stephen gives Fizz and the other knicker people an early mark, Fizz nips over to the garage to suggest that she and Tyrone nip home for the hole, which leaves Kev and Abby to take care of Mr. Massey's MOT, but not like that.
And also for Abby to grab Kev's ass
Yeah, she
over
checks.
and over and over again.
She checks Kev's ass. She likes what she sees.
Yep.
She's still on the muck.
It reminded me of all the times that I'm grabbing your ass. Yeah.
So they go home, but the mood is ruined when the living room is stinking of chinchilla shite.
Yes.
Fizz goes off with the marigolds, and not to use the one Tyrone. Later, Ty is covered in sawdust and chinchilla shite, so they make do with a lovely cup of tea. And that's as far as we get with that this week. I quite like the fact that there's a chinchilla.
I didn't even know that that was legal. Chinchillas.
I'm not sure that it is. No, it is. Well,
Well, it is over there. I don't think it is over here.
So there's not pet shops. I don't think you can get pet shops anymore. Well, you certainly can't buy cats and dogs at pet shops. But I remember going to like Home Base or B&Q or someplace like that, and they'd have like a fish section and they'd have a budgie section. Was that? I think that was that.
Yeah, we have pet
And
shops.
I think there was a chinchilla section there. So I think it must be legal.
Yeah. Well, we have the big Prius pet shop, which is in the same neighborhood as Elderly, your favorite place to shop
Yeah.
for
I just don't think that
TARS.
pet shops are really sustainable anymore.
They have tarantulas.
Prius.
Yeah. And also, a lot of lizards. You can buy dogs and cats still. I mean, we know people who sell cats, but I don't think that's really sustainable anymore either, really.
Not as a shop.
No.
Because it was Kynox, the pet shop in Stirling that I remember as a kid that used to have puppies in the window and
Yeah.
stuff, and that has long been gone. Because it's kind of cruel keeping puppies in the window and stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
And then you're never too sure who you're giving them to and all that
Right. And you're never too sure where they came from, like puppy mills and stuff. It's not nice to think about.
Puppy mill sounds nice.
Where you mill puppies.
No, just think of a field with puppies playing in it and there's a little mill in the background. Some delightful ambient music playing.
Is that like when your parents told you that your old dog went to live at a farm upstate?
We didn't have upstates in Scotland. We just had the toilet.
You didn't. Your parents never flushed a puppy down the
They
toilet.
fucking tried.
Are we worried about Scylla the chinchilla?
I'm worried that Hope's going to kill her.
But accidentally. I don't think Hope would intentionally kill.
Hope has already forgotten her.
Dead father.
Well, she's forgotten that, but she's already forgotten her chore to clean Scylla's cage out.
Right. My fear is that Scylla will be out of the cage while it is being cleaned at some point. Cerberus will eat Scylla, and then Hope will kill Cerberus.
Oh. Yeah, that's a little bit more
And
complex than I had in mind.
And then Evelyn will kill Hope.
Evelyn was quite funny. The little
It's
bit
the
that she was
circle of life.
in the talk about getting a pet, and she's like, "Hello, what do you call this?"
Right.
But Tyrone's right. That's your dog.
Right.
It's not the kid's dog.
Yeah, but the dog lives in the house, and they pet the dog, and they help take care of the dog, or they should be helping take care of the dog.
They're not doing that. All right, let's move on to our next story, which is Daisy and the DJ. On Monday, Daisy is sure now that she won't be bothered by the DJ again after she got him told last week. But she has to think twice when another bouquet is delivered to the Rovers. Panic over, though, as the flowers are for Jenny. They're from Teddy to say thank you for everything.
Yes.
Isn't that nice?
It is nice. Good old Teddy. Long may he live.
Later, though, yet another bouquet is delivered, and this one is collected by Daniel, who wonders who Justin is and why he's written a card saying he can't stop thinking about Daisy. Daisy thinks on her feet and says that Justin is a florist, a happily married florist, and Daniel is so stupid that he thinks that explains the flowers in the card when it doesn't explain it at all, really.
No.
Later, after talking with Glenda and Jenny, Daisy writes a text to the DJ telling him once and for all that he ain't getting access to her underpants and he can fuck right off. Del.
Yes.
On Wednesday, through the back of the Rovers, Daisy and Daniel are working on the guest list. Daniel is inviting Bertie, probably. Daisy's side is full of influencers because Daisy's an influencer, remember?
Right, yeah, and she has no real friends.
Those aren't pals, says Jenny, and Daniel agrees. Daisy points out that she used to have friends one time, long ago.
She
Later-
has Glenda and Gemma, who are co-workers, I guess.
Yeah, they're co-workers and stepmother. Later, privately, Daniel tells Jenny that he's had the bright idea to secretly invite all of Daisy's old pals to the wedding because if there's one thing that brides love, it's surprises at their wedding. Jenny thinks this is a smashing idea, so gives some names to Daniel. Back through the back now, Daniel is searching through her old school's alumni page, and Daisy comes in, sees what's going on, and goes Raj, telling Daniel that he had no right. But I'm only looking for people you don't talk to anymore for some reason, shouts Daniel.
Right.
Eventually, she explains that after her dad died, all her pals decided that she was milking her grief for attention. Dreary Daisy, they called her, or something. Daniel is in tears at
Daisy
this.
Downer.
Right. Daniel is in tears at this emotional outburst and admission and promises to retract all the invitations that he's already sent out.
I didn't think any invitations had been sent out. They haven't gotten their invitations yet.
Oh.
You have to order those.
It's like he'd emailed them or something.
Right, yeah, but that's not like a formal invitation.
No.
What is wrong with Daniel?
On Friday, Daisy is still an influencer. She's taken a picture of her ring to post online.
Because she's wearing a different nail polish and she's asking their opinion about whether or not the nail polish goes with the ring.
Apparently she's already shown her ring to the entire pub.
But not like that.
There we go. Daniel comes in to give Daisy a smooch, have a quick finger of her ring, and then is off to work.
Exactly like that.
Glenda, who thinks Daisy should come clean about the DJ, gives Daisy a bit of a stern look. And not long after, a delivery guy arrives in the Rovers with more flowers for Daisy, and we can tell that they're from the same person because they have the same piss-poor imagination.
Right.
More daisies for Daisy.
Right.
The message is getting creepy now. Glenda calls it unwanted attention and tells Daisy to be brutal this time, but Daisy plans to hit him where it hurts and post a takedown on his socials, and she lets Todd do it.
Because Todd's there, drunk because of another storyline.
That we've already talked about.
Yeah.
And of course, it goes viral while Todd gets slowly mullered. The DJ comes in furious with Daisy, claiming not to know what Daisy's been talking about. It turns out the DJ isn't called Justin after all. He's called Keith.
Yes.
Finally.
Finally, we have our Keith.
Keith the DJ.
Keith the DJ.
To make matters more interesting, in comes Daniel, who recognises the DJ from the photograph that was taken the other week. Keith says that Daisy must have been flirting with Justin and begs her to take the post down. Daniel is confused because he thought Keith was gay. Keith is saying, I've got half a mind to become gay.
Right. And Todd
Todd's
says,
very interested in that.
Todd says, me too.
Right. He was quite funny.
That was great.
Through the back, Daniel isn't angry with Daisy. He knows that Daisy is a flirt, and he knows that she's a flirt with people to get what she wants.
Right. And he's like, you flirt with men and women.
He's just disappointed. and he's upset that some creep is sending her flowers. And I don't know why they don't know that the person that's sending the flowers is that Insta follower that we've seen his name a couple of times already.
Right, yeah. It's
Whatever
not
it was.
that hard to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
And also, she should absolutely call the police and say, I'm being stalked. I'm getting this unwanted attention from a stranger. Because that's how people get murdered, with stalkers that they don't know giving them unwanted attention and nobody following up on it and nobody paying attention.
Yeah, the police aren't going to touch that.
They should, though. At least have it on file.
Police aren't there to protect people.
They're
That's for
to
another
protect
podcast.
Assets.
Right. I wondered what the whole Daisy's friend thing seemed to be, that was kind of in the middle of the Justin/Keith stuff that happened on Monday and Friday. We had this little bit on Wednesday where Daisy turns out to not have been popular because her dad died and she was sad about it.
It wasn't her dad. It
Who was
was
it?
her little baby brother.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, Tom was her baby brother. It wasn't her dad.
Oh, I thought it was her dad. I think I said that.
I think you did. And I think I forgot to catch you up
That's
on
fine.
it.
That's fine.
No, it
Her
was
brother died?
Her little baby brother. Remember?
No.
They had this whole thing earlier when Daisy first moved in.
Oh, I wasn't listening to what she said when she moved in. I didn't like her.
Yeah, but there was this whole thing, and that's what bonded her and Jenny, because remember, Jenny has a dead baby as well, because everybody has a dead baby on the street. Mm-hmm. They really do need to get that water checked. But
Yes.
I shouldn't be laughing at that. But
Because it's your own joke. Yeah.
no,
Agreed.
because dead babies aren't funny.
Yet you're still laughing.
I'm laughing at you.
I didn't say anything.
No, exactly. But you made a face. So, yeah, I mean, I can kind of understand this, especially in high school, because kids don't know. Kids don't understand grief. At the very least, maybe one of their grandparents die, but it's not like your little brother dies. So I can see they're wrong, but they're wrong because they don't understand at this point, and nobody is correcting them. Mm-hmm. But I can see why Daisy wouldn't want to associate with those people anymore, even though they've probably grown up at this point. And
yeah, it was a very long time ago.
Right, and if it was pointed out to them, they'd probably feel very bad about it. But, nobody's pointing it out to them. Daniel's just going to be snarky about them being on the B list.
Yeah, Daniel's chosen to be passive-aggressive about it.
Right. Instead of saying, I'm sorry, I thought this would be a good thing, but unfortunately, because...
I spoke to Daisy. She hates you all.
Right, because you were cruel to her when her brother died.
No harm done. Apart from her brother dying.
Right. Yes. Her brother. Mm-hmm.
Thomas.
Yes.
Thomas Daisy.
Thomas Midgley, wouldn't it be?
I think so. You're just showing off with your Corrie knowledge these days. You sure it was her brother?
Yes, it was her brother. Because her dad wasn't dead, because her dad was still married to Jenny.
No, there's something just a little fishy about this friend thing, I think. I don't know. There's something that's just... I don't know if it sits right. There's something... I feel like there's something that we don't know yet about this. It just seems a very strange thing to bring up and then deal with immediately. So when was the last time Corrie brought something up and dealt with it immediately? So my temptation is not to believe the first reason that they give you.
When Alia was blown up by a bomb?
You think that was dealt with?
Yes, because she was all better, like 5 minutes later when she was wandering the streets and Craig found her.
I'm not sure. But I thought it's a shame that we're probably not going to see Keith the DJ again, because I thought he was pretty
hilarious.
funny.
That was hilarious.
And the little interaction with Todd was
was great.
And I do like Glenda's insistence that here's
thought.
an idea
Tell
just
the truth.
out of left field. Tell him the truth. No, I can't do that. All right, moving on. Our next storyline is Enter the Damon. On Monday, there's a little altercation in Nina's roles between Carla and Damon over whether a new or existing customer takes precedence with an order. Got to say it's a new customer.
Right, yeah,
Got
especially
to say it's a new customer.
especially when you're sitting down.
You're sitting down, you've already had your thirst quenched by
Right.
one cuppa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Carla is definitely in the right here.
I think so. She doesn't entertain Damon for one moment. At the bistro, Leanne is fuming that Jacob hasn't shown up for his shift, and Nick keeps quiet about his whereabouts even though he knows that
Right.
he's done
yeah.
a runner. Later, Leanne complains about Jacob to Simon. Simon loves this because despite the fact that he'd kind of made up and kind
Right.
of been friends,
He doesn't seem like he loves it, though.
I don't know. I thought you took a little bit of pleasure in it. They pass Amy, who confirms that she's split with Jacob and he's fucked off somewhere now that he's dealing drugs again. Good riddance, says Simon. And Damon is next to bump into Amy and he offers his condolences, finding it unbelievable that Jacob was dealing drugs again. And Carla comes along, ignores Damon and his quip, and tells Amy not to let the Jacob debacle sour her. As soon as possible, slap a smile on your face again and get out there. She's got a lot to live for. And Amy's like, can I get that printed on a t-shirt? And she wanders off.
As she should, because nobody should just be slapping a smile on their face before they're ready. We just learned that with Daisy.
Mm-hmm. And really, Carla knows this about as well as anyone.
Seriously.
Are they trying to introduce a little tension there between Damon and Carla? Kind of felt that way. Carla's not interested. Oh, one little bit.
No.
And then I lost my notes for Wednesday for the storyline somehow. But what I can remember about it was that Nick gets Ryan to do some digging on Damon's Ibiza businesses.
Yes.
And Ryan discovers that Damon actually, rather than being someone who cleans up clubs, he's a big-time drug dealer and not afraid to get violent if needs be.
Right. Yeah.
Nick-
And put somebody in a hospital.
Nick accuses Damon of being behind the drugs at the bistro last week rather than Jacob. And Damon tells him to get used to it because that's going to be happening quite a lot from now on.
Right.
And if Nick doesn't like it, Damon will tell Leanne about the money and get Nick booted to fuck into the bargain.
Which is what Nick should say, fine. Yes. You know what? I'll go tell her right now because you shouldn't be hiding things from your partner.
Nick suspects it was maybe a bad idea taking a loan from the guy convicted for murdering his son's mother. Meanwhile, Leanne, Nick and Damon all put their heads together and come up with an all-you-can-drink night idea for the bistro to boost their shite January numbers.
Do you think Harvey was really beat up?
Yeah, we kind of saw it. Well, we didn't see
We
it
didn't
happen,
see it
but we saw
happen.
the guy go into the
Right.
into the cell with a was it
Right.
a table leg or something?
Yeah. Because, I mean, it kind of feels like this was all planned, doesn't it? It feels like Harvey and Damon are kind of in this together, doesn't it?
No,
Because Harvey's the one who actually gave him the money. Nick, that is.
no, it feels like a badly planned storyline that's been kind of fucked by Jacob leaving.
It feels like Harvey and Damon are still in cahoots because we don't get to see Harvey get beat up. And we don't get to see Harvey we don't get to see the aftermath of Harvey getting beat up. We don't see Harvey with bruises and stuff.
That's true, but it's on the news because Leanne hears about it on the news.
I
About,
thought somebody called her from the prison.
no,
because,
it was on the news. But it's kind of left ambiguous enough that if they want to retcon it into something else at a later date, they can probably still do that
Oh, absolutely.
and get away with it. Yeah, I'm not really liking Damon.
No.
I was liking him to start with. Like I said, he was that kind of cheeky chappy.
Right.
Oh, he doesn't know where the line is, and he kind of muddies it in lots of grey areas and stuff. But he's just a wrong un. And I don't know that we need more drugs in this show. And it's just
And more drug dealers.
drugs and drug dealers are pretty boring.
It's drugs, drug dealers, or, mental health, or women being, abused in some way or exploited in some way. It's like, because someone on the internet, was saying that, they wished that the whole Toya thing would turn out that she had some sort of mental illness that caused her to kill Imran. And it's like, I don't want anybody else to have a mental illness on the show anymore. We have enough, and we have so many that the show has forgotten about some of them and just totally ignores the fact that they are supposed to have a mental illness. Looking at you, Craig.
Right.
The only one they remember is Peter, because alcoholism is fun.
But no, I think you're right. I think Nick's method of dealing with this should either be tell Leanne or tell Leanne and the police at the same time.
Right. Yeah. 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 But that'll never happen because then you don't have a story.
No, there's a big time drug dealer, like a big time drug dealer.
On who's importing drugs from Spain, even.
Italy. You get this mixed up every time?
Ibiza's in Italy?
Oh no, it was me that got it mixed up that time.
Because Ibiza's in Spain.
Yes.
It's Stephen, who's from Italy.
Yes.
Yes.
But the heroine. No, the heroine's from Italy.
No, the heroine's from Spain.
No, I think the heroine's from Italy. I think he said it's
the olive
it's the
oils.
finest. No, it was the finest Italian produce. He said.
Yeah, that's the olive oil.
I think it's the heroine. It doesn't matter.
Are they growing poppies in Italy? Is the climate right for that?
I
thought
don't know.
I thought
that's
poppies preferred
Afghanistan.
something drier.
Yeah.
Who knows? Poppies, in fact, were on that map of edible plants in Iran.
Oh, there's a callback for
There
this
you
week.
go.
There we go. Callback of the week. Boring callback of the week. No, this is a big time drug dealer. This is worse than Harvey, bigger than Harvey. And remember, they really wanted Harvey.
Right.
Because they wanted Harvey so much that Leanne had to be basically bait for it.
Right.
And Natasha dies because of this.
Right.
Kinda.
And then Sharon takes it over. If Sharon has taken this drug dealing family over, why haven't we seen her? Why hasn't anybody mentioned her? Nobody's mentioned her.
Is this a possible comeback for Sharon?
Nobody has mentioned her. Harvey.
I could live without Sharon coming back into it, because Sharon, when she came back into it last time, remember she was just
She had that
wandering
rolly
about.
bag.
She was wandering about trying to get logged into Sam's Xbox Live account and stuff. Remember, it was just absolutely ridiculous.
That was great compared to this.
Sure. All right, our penultimate storyline tonight is Gemma's bright idea, finally. On Friday, it is fucking shitballs crazy at the Quad House, and that's before Michael arrives with Glory. Joseph looks like he's about to run away from home again, but no one notices. Michael pays Gemma 60 quid to look after his kid, and Gemma's so cock-a-hoop about it that she's ready to make it rain. Bernie gets home from work, and there are a million children in the front room, but they're actually all fairly well behaved and quiet.
Yes, because they're
Gemma
painting.
Has done some research on what childminders earn, and about a week after it should have, it finally twigs. Gemma has had an idea.
Gemma has given toddlers paints.
She sets up an ad for a BSL-friendly childminding service. Chauncey comes home and is impressed with the idea. Gemma announces that the next step is for her to get her certificates and then book the wedding in Ibiza. And within 4 seconds of posting the ad, Gemma already has 5 million messages, all wanting childcare services from her.
Yeah.
And that's as far as we get with that this week.
Yeah. At least she mentions getting her certificates. At least the show acknowledges that Gemma is smart enough to know she has to get certification.
Yeah, stuff that she doesn't currently have.
Right. But she's already advertising.
I think she probably needs insurance as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know, it makes sense if you're going to have 4, possibly 5 kids in that house, you might as well have 100.
Yeah. Yeah. And Gemma's good with kids. But how is she going to do this and also work at the Rovers and also work in the kebab shop? Is she still working in the kebab shop?
I think they're all working in the kebab shop. But I think if she's getting in an extra 180 quid a day.
Yeah, she can quit those other things.
Absolutely.
Which makes me sad because Gemma belongs in the Rovers.
She does.
And we don't get to see her there enough these days. She was there last week, but that's only so that she would be in the room when Debbie came in with that offer of free drinks.
Yes.
And then so she could be the comic relief and get very drunk.
Which worked. All right, well, we shall see where that goes next week, but I'm getting the idea that a British Sign Language friendly child-minding service is very much the hot potato in Weatherfield. All right, our final storyline this week is Tim's mum about the house. On Monday, Stephen arrives early at the Rovers to see how Teddy is doing. His memory still hasn't returned since the last time Stephen asked, which was 5 minutes ago. Later, Rita is packing her car with stuff for the charity shop, and the passing Stephen asks how Teddy is doing, and then offers his services since he got that roof rack thing from Audrey. Rita and Jenny think
Audrey.
This is an incredibly generous offer and accept his help. What a gentleman, says Rita. He's always really helpful and very polite.
Yes, and knows how to pack a car.
And buttocks to die for.
I've
A
seen
successful
better.
trip to the charity shop later. And well, it is Rita.
I'm looking at it right now.
And Rita, my buttocks are better than Stephen's.
Yes.
Well,
Amongst other things.
I'm putting that on a t-shirt. And Rita offers to buy Stephen a drink at the Bistro. He would rather go to the Rovers, as it'll let him find out how Teddy's doing. So at the Rovers, Stephen goes to check on Teddy, which allows Rita and Jenny to chat a bit about Stephen. Rita thinking that Jenny should be all over that. Jenny said that she'd fuck it in a flash, but he has his eye on Tim's mum.
And also, Jenny is not ready to move on yet from Leo.
Apparently, Leo's side of the bed is still warm.
Yes. It's been months, Jenny.
On Wednesday,
And she doesn't know that he's dead.
Stephen is minding his own business in Nina's rolls when Tim's mum appears. She worries that he's been keeping his distance since the money stuff, and she asks to take him out for lunch to clear the air, and he grudgingly accepts. So in the pub later, he complains to Gail about this, saying that he felt obligated to have lunch with Tim's mum, who he fears has desires to get into his underpants, and this is overheard by Teddy.
Right, yes. And Gail recommends he pretend he's gay, which
So-
was hilarious.
So when Stephen and Tim's mum are about to have lunch, Teddy inserts himself into the booth, talking loudly to Stephen about an argument they're supposedly having about the Beatles or the Rolling Stones.
The Kinks.
Miffed by the intrusion, Tim's mum leaves after registering her vote for the Beatles. Teddy explains that he overheard the conversation with Gail, although he says your sister. And I don't know how Teddy knows that. But anyway,
Everybody knows that. They look exactly alike.
he says he was just bailing Stephen out. I owe you a pint, says Stephen, which I think is the worst thing that Stephen has said. What a horrible thing to say.
Yeah. Yeah. He's not a nice person. He's already killed one person. He's tried to drug his mother. He's stolen money from his mother. And he's exploited other people on the street. We already know he's horrible.
That Canadian, Ohio accent, though, it goes a long way.
No, it doesn't.
This happens quite a bit,
you
and it's supposed to be funny that but people overhear things, and so, oh well, I'm going to do him a favour that he doesn't know that I'm doing and he hasn't asked for,
Right.
and it's kind of annoying. And you think that Stephen's going to be appalled by this,
Right.
but instead offers to buy him a pint.
Right. Yes. Do you think people actually find Stephen's voice exotic and attractive? Do British people find American accents attractive?
Well, they're out of the norm. I think that's pretty much what exotic is, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. But attractive? Do you find my voice attractive?
As they're at the bar. Of course I do. But you don't have an American accent. I don't hear your voice with an American accent.
Right. I still hear your Scottish accent. It's not quite as heavy. It's not quite Alan Cumming anymore. It's mellowed to a like an Ewan McGregor.
Ian McGregor?
Yeah. Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, that's what I said.
So
Ewan
you said
McGregor.
Ian McGregor.
No.
So I was listening to my Aloha podcast, driving Stelly home from
Bowling.
some fucking bowling thing that she's doing. And she's like, "Oh, you're listening to your Aloha podcast." And I said, "Do I sound like these guys?" And she said, "No, you're not as Scottish as them. You don't sound as Scottish as them."
Correct. Because you've lived here for over 10 years now.
Yeah, nearly 11.
Yeah.
Anyway, as they're at the bar, Daisy wanders by with a bucket of mulled wine, and this triggers a memory for Teddy, who now remembers seeing Stephen before he got flattened by that speeding minivan.
I can't believe she's tried to sell mulled wine that's over 2 weeks old.
It's a month old, pretty much.
That's disgusting.
Over the next few scenes, around various chatting spots in the show, Teddy remembers bits and bobs but is unable to piece it all together and still has no idea where Sinkhole Leo is. He makes a decision to go back to Canada, realising that he'll never be able to settle until he knows his boy is okay. Belter, says Stephen, and at this point, I thought Stephen was actually happy that Teddy was going to fuck off to Canada.
Yeah. Because that would get... I don't understand why Stephen
Why is he
hasn't
still
left-
there?
Why is he there? Why is he still there? It's not... He got his money from the Five Guys, Burgers and Fries.
Mm-hmm. 6 fellas. They sue.
They won't sue us. But we could sue them because of the lack of peanuts. Peanuts.
Either or, I'm not sure we have much of a case, but...
But, why is he still there? He's got some money. Leave. I thought he'd already booked a ticket, and he hasn't. And
No, he looked it up. He didn't hit the buy button.
It does not benefit him to still be there. If he goes away, and then somebody finds Leo's body eventually, nobody's going to accuse him.
Well, the thing is, Teddy's going to remember one way or the other, whether
Right.
Stephen's there or not.
Right.
And one could argue that constantly being in Teddy's face
Yeah.
is likely to trigger something
Yeah.
sooner or later. And maybe
Exactly.
it's just best for him to get the fuck out of Dodge
Right.
and forget about it.
And hide.
And then nobody knows where he is.
In Canada. It's a big place.
Or Italy, where they can import heroin or something.
Not as big.
Correct.
Right. And you could build a meth lab in Canada.
So... If that's the path that he wants to go down.
Right, yes.
So at this point, I'm thinking Stephen's all for this. You'll give him a ride to the airport.
Right.
On Friday, it's early morning again and Stephen has dropped in at the Rovers to see how Teddy's doing again. He's full of fine fettle and ready to jump on a plane as soon as he gets a cancellation. Stephen thinks Teddy should check with his doctor before travelling, but Teddy will not be dissuaded. So now I'm thinking Stephen wants Teddy to stay. But this just makes it worse for him.
I don't know.
Stephen is berating the Knicker people for chatting about their private lives when Tim's mum, who let's remember doesn't work at the factory, comes into the factory with coffees and pastries and wants to chat. He reminds her that it's the middle of the working day and she takes a bit of a strop at this and fucks off. Bitches and hoes, says Stephen. So Teddy's managed to get a cancellation and he's off to Canada to go door to door looking for Sinkhole Leo. Stephen appears and offers to take Teddy for a farewell cappuccino. Teddy and Jenny think this is perfectly normal behaviour.
Right.
Meanwhile, Tim's mum is in the Rovers complaining to Tim about Stephen and reveals that she lent him 12 grand. Jenny overhears all this and hears Tim's mum worry about the money coming between her and Stephen, and Tim thinks that Stephen is at it. In Nina's roles, Stephen tells Teddy that Sinkhole Leo doesn't give a fuck about Teddy and he's wasting his time and money bothering Canadians for no reason. Teddy eventually agrees and takes Stephen's advice to go home to Stockport and forget all about this stuff that he hasn't already forgotten about.
Stephen has obviously forgotten. Canadians don't mind. They're very helpful people.
Stephen leaves, and Billy, who was sitting at the next table, tells Teddy it's just a shame they didn't have a tracking app, and this triggers something in Teddy. And Billy also says, "Oh, families, eh?"
Yeah.
Like, you're fucking want to talk, Billy.
Right. Well, that's what he says. He's like, my daughter just got kidnapped and almost died because she was going to be a surrogate for these crazy people.
And the crazy people, the guy was dabbing sugar on her lips. Oh my God. You
Seriously.
have no idea. But she did write, "Fuck you, Mike," in her own shite on the wall, so
But then again,
it all cancels itself out.
But again, this is someone sitting at a different table, overhearing somebody else's conversation and butting in.
Right. With Carla gone, Sarah comes along and checks with Stephen to see if she and Michael can use the factory on the quiet to print some labels for an important meeting. Stephen agrees and sends the knicker people home because he's in such a good mood because he's getting rid of Teddy. Stephen is leaving the factory and sees Teddy there. He tells Stephen that he remembers now. He remembers everything. He knows that Stephen has done something to his sinkhole Leo. He remembers the triangulation thing that his mate at the special branch mentioned to him, and he remembers telling Stephen about it, and he remembers not seeing sinkhole Leo in Canada. Why would Stephen lie? Stephen invites Teddy inside, saying that he can explain everything. So I'd thought that Teddy had gone to the police on a more official basis.
Right.
But it seems now that he's just had a word with his mate,
Right.
who works for the police, who told him about the whole triangulation thing, but seems to have put some effort into it because the triangulation thing pointed at the Rovers.
Right. Yes. Yes. And now Teddy, who knows that Stephen has done something to his son, goes with Stephen inside a dark, unoccupied factory.
Yes.
Where people have already died.
Meanwhile, seemingly apropos of nothing, Audrey goes into the Rovers looking for Stephen and passes on a message to Jenny that she needs her car back because she's off to the Peak District to visit her friend Bev. Back at the factory, Teddy demands answers. Stephen lied to give Teddy closure, he says, but Teddy thinks Stephen sent the text to make it look like Sinkhole Leo was in Canada and Stephen killed him to get into Jenny's underpants. Teddy threatens to go to the police, so Stephen smashes Teddy's head in with a hole punch. And either dead or unconscious, Stephen has to leave him when Michael comes in to print those stupid labels.
Right, yeah.
So Stephen gets rid of him, telling him that Carla's on her way back. Michael realising that he can conduct his business meeting in the pub instead. Stephen gives Michael the punch.
Right, which, if he'd really been One Punch Man and hit Teddy hard enough to kill him or knock him unconscious, there should be hair and blood stuck to the underneath of that hole punch.
And if Teddy's dead, a bit of brain maybe?
Yes.
Some skull?
And also there should be blood on the floor.
But the murder weapon
What the
now has the fingerprints of Michael
Right.
all over it.
Right. Yeah.
And like you, the police love a bit of fingerprints.
Right. Yes. Especially if it means that they can finger a black dude for the murder.
Right. So Michael is sent
This
on his
fucking
way,
show.
and then Stephen goes back to the office and stands over Teddy's body and breaks down and cries because he's killed another person. But this time we see that all of this is on the factory's CCTV. So next we see Stephen, he's struggling to get the roof box into the back of Audrey's car. And this is the first bit that I saw of this week's episode, of Friday's episode. Because I was busy doing other things. The VPN,
And you weren't paying attention.
The VPN wasn't really working. When it finally started to work, I was looking at Stephen trying to get that roof box into the back of the car. I was like, oh, surely not. Surely Teddy's not in that roof box. But yes, he is.
Yeah. How did he smush him in there? Did he bring the roof box into the factory and then drag it out of the factory?
Yes, he did.
And people noticed this, right?
But he's obviously struggling to get like a £200 roof box into the back of Audrey's car.
Right.
So much so that Kev and Abby and Tim see him struggling and give him a hand.
Right.
But they don't put him into the boot. They lift him up and put him on the roof, which is where it should go. So the corpse of
So it's just
Sinkhole Teddy
So it's
is
just-
now on the roof of Audrey's car.
so it's just National Lampoon Vacation all over
Just
again
a little bit. It's Clark Griswold's granny.
in her rocking chair.
So Tim takes an opportunity to warn Stephen of Tim's mum, and then Jenny arrives to tell Stephen that Audrey needs a car and she needs to talk to him about the contents of that roof box.
Gulp.
Stephen paps his knickers. Stephen has told Kev and Abby and Tim that it's
Sewing machines.
sewing machines that he's
that need to
taken
be
into
repaired.
repair. And nobody questions this.
And, except for Abby.
Well, they do question it, but they don't question
Right.
it enough.
Yeah, Abby does say, well, why don't you take one out and put it in the boot and then it'll be lighter? And I don't know. I don't remember what Stephen's excuse is, but Abby seems to go with it.
He dropped the key.
Oh, so it's locked.
Right.
So how is he planning on getting them out?
Right. This is a very temporary excuse. Right?
How are they all just mesmerized by that accent?
So, privately, Jenny thinks Stephen is stealing sewing machines to repay his debts, which is actually remarkable enough for it to be possibly true.
Right.
She heard Tim's mum tell Tim about the 12 grand thing. Stephen swears that he's not stealing anything and explains what happened with Gabrielle and Sarah's business and all that stuff. He admits to fancying Tim's mum, but not like that. Jenny offers her ear and possibly the contents of her underpants if Stephen is interested. So by the time he deals with all this and he finally leaves the factory, he discovers that Audrey's taken her car to visit her friend Bev, who lives in the Peak District.
It really is National Lampoon's Vacation.
And that's how we end this week's episodes. And this, I was howling in laughter. This was hilarious.
He just has no luck with cars, does he?
Or killing people.
He seems to have good luck with that because 2 out of 2.
It's gone through Sinkhole Leo's family.
It's a good thing his mum was already dead. Do you think he'll kill the awful housemates next?
I do hope so. It's just meant to be funny. It's funny, though. It is funny.
It's funny, but I don't know if it's meant to be funny. It's so...
I don't know. Sally Ann Matthews seems to have been having a laugh about it on
right.
Twitter.
Well, because she's smart and she understands.
Yeah, it made me chuckle. It made me chuckle when he was crying, when he broke down and started to cry.
Right, because he was dead. It's like, well, what did you expect? You gave him a head wound. That's the only way to kill somebody on the street.
Is that head wound of the week?
That is head wound of the week.
Okay, good.
Yeah, sorry, Mike.
Oh, glad we checked.
Sorry, Mike. Who also, let's remember, Mike got pushed and knocked out briefly on those stairs. Not even a bruise. Not even some jam on his face.
So last week, we had 4 potential head wounds. Another 2 this week.
One that results in a death.
And a death.
But surprisingly, not a bomb.
So
It's a hole punch.
6 head wounds in 2 weeks and 3 dead Teds in 2 years. That's
No blood.
That's pretty good going.
He's dead. No blood. No blood. None.
I mean, the more I think about it, the more they are playing it for laughs, because the way that Stephen is just refusing to give Teddy an inch of his own space.
Right.
Constantly asking him if he's okay, constantly checking on his memory.
Right.
And everyone is just happy to accommodate him and,
Right.
and answer these stupid questions. And
Stupid questions.
oh, dearie me.
But, you know, it also kind of felt like Mike dabbing sugar on Summer's lips was played for laughs as well because it was so stupid.
Mm.
And it's like, do they realize how ridiculous these storylines are? So they're just leaning into that maybe a little bit too much, as opposed to, you know, saying, well, look, we just need to reevaluate this and make it an actual story instead of making it camp, because that's what it is now. It's just when Stephen comes out and the car is gone.
Oh, that was just brilliant. Audrey's off driving down the M6.
With a dead man.
A dead man. In the roof box, which
Smooshed into her roof box.
Which the only good thing is that she can't possibly move it. Because it took 4 people to get it up there.
Right. She could unlock it, though, and open the lid.
I don't know. But does this not just exacerbate the problem? Because now Jenny thinks that Teddy's going to be in Canada. So
everybody's abandoning her for Canada.
Never to
it
be
is
heard
a
of
lovely
again.
place.
Never to be heard of again. I wonder if Tim's mum is the as a solution to this. I was kind of worried that Tim's mum was going to be the next person that he kills.
Well, see, here's the thing. There's been so much wild speculation that it was going to be Tim's mum, that it was going to be Audrey, that it was going to be Rita.
Oh, Rita, what's she done?
Well,
Well, it's Rita.
that it was going to be
Singing
Carla.
too much at New Year.
She didn't sing it all this year.
That we saw.
That it was going to be Carla. And it's like, of course, he's not going to kill one of the regulars.
No.
Because that would be taking risks and doing something smart. So,
The fact remains, though, that he should be in Timbuktu by now.
yeah. Why are you still here? Get out.
But it's like he needs to be able to get 6 months without killing somebody before he can leave. And so that's it been reset to 0 again. So we've got 6 months from now.
And his mum.
Are they going to have him kill again?
Surely somebody's going to find that dead body in the cab, in the thing, that roof thing.
Well, how long do you think it's going to take before it starts to smell? Because I don't think that roof thing is going to stop it from smelling.
No, but how long is Audrey going to be away?
Oh, she was just going for an overnight.
Right. Yeah.
And it was already kind of dark by the time that she left,
Right.
so
Yeah.
arguably it wasn't worth her while.
Maybe she'll stay longer because of that.
But she's
But-
like Mrs. Magoo with her cataracts, driving about with this dead person on the
She
roof
got
rack.
those cataracts fixed. But it's just it's been Chekhov's rooftop box forever,
For a
isn't it?
while,
Because
yeah.
remember when he got it for Audrey as a Christmas present.
And he didn't have a car.
Right. And people are like, he doesn't have a car, and that's also a weird gift. It is a weird gift.
Yeah.
Why would you buy your mom a rooftop box for her car when she's an old lady who doesn't go like...
I thought she bought him it.
Yeah, she bought him it,
Yeah.
but then he doesn't have a car, so he put it on her car.
Right.
Yeah. And people are like, why? Well, this is why, so he can cart around dead bodies.
I thought, I kind of complained about the Daisy stuff in the middle of the week being this kind of left field friend thing. But we had the same kind of left field thing on Wednesday with this storyline when he was helping out Rita. But they did that much better. I thought that was a much more easy way to bring this part of the storyline in.
See, I think that had the effect of Rita then being approving of Stephen and putting it in Jenny's ear that she should hook up with him.
Yeah, it worked on a
It's
couple of levels.
furthering that story.
Yeah.
I think the Daisy and Daniel and Daisy's school friends thing, I think that is going to play out and come back because people that she didn't want to know that she was getting married are going to find out that she's getting married and are going to show up.
Right, because Daniel's told them. 'Cause
Right.
He's kind of.
But I don't think it's going to be those people. I
Right.
think it may be other people.
Well, yeah. Well, that at least would make a little bit more sense than how it's sitting at the moment.
Right. Because let's remember, Jenny is not her only mother.
Right. Yeah.
She's her stepmother, which would stand to reason that there's an actual mother out there somewhere that we've never been introduced to.
Right. So we have another dead character
Named Ted.
who is probably going to eventually will find his way to wherever Cinco Leo is disposed of. We have Tim's mum being a bit suspicious and a bit narky at Stephen now, and Tim is also very suspicious of
Right.
of Stephen and his.
And it seems
his
like Jenny is a
intentions.
little suspicious of him now, too, now that she's found out about this money that Tim's mum lent to Stephen.
He was quite convincing about that, I thought. as he-
Right. But she knows, because let's remember, everybody presupposes that Stephen has a lot of money. And now Jenny knows that he doesn't have a lot of money.
Right. Oh well,
Oh, well,
that was the week that was Coronation Street.
absolutely.
Helen, tell me, what was your moment of the week?
You know what I think it is? I think it's Paul and Todd's conversation in the Rovers, where Paul talks about how, you know, initially the Kel stuff was with him all the time, and now he can go maybe 6 or 7 hours before it comes crashing on him again, and how living with Billy and Summer and being a family kind of completed him in a way that made him forget for long periods of time. That was just really a really good conversation. It went somewhere. It allowed Todd some growth and, you know, nudged the two of them closer together. Mm-hmm. Wink, wink. That is my moment of the week, I think.
Yeah, I liked how the show remembered that the Kel thing was a thing.
Right.
Because too often it seems to forget that. And
that Paul never really got closure because Kel was never punished.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That was really good. That is our
moment of the week.
Moment of the week.
Your boring moment of the week.
Daisy and Daniel's guest list.
Oh, that was a weird thing though on that guest list because Wendy's name was on it.
Daisy taking pictures of her hands and explaining to Glenda that it's because of her nail polish.
I find this whole Daisy's an influencer thing remarkably stupid and unbelievable.
I mean, Kim Kardashian did buy Hailey's anorak, so you got to think that has something to do with Daisy. But like the whole taking pictures of her hands, because that's just...
Who's that influencing them? What's it influencing them to do?
Well, she's asking her followers if the nail polish goes well with her ring.
Why would you follow her? She's like a nobody working in a nowhere pub in a nowhere place.
Because she's pretty and fancy, and people follow people who are pretty and fancy.
I don't know. Doesn't that take a little bit more than that?
No. But still, the whole taking pictures and like explaining to Glenda about influencers and stuff, it's like it's getting a little annoying. Is it Michael going on about labels? Michael and Sarah and labels.
Because they don't have a printer
in their house, or they could use the law office.
Right. Yeah, fuck it. Sarah, print their labels. That's our
boring moment of the week.
The boring moment of the week.
Well, I think that about wraps it up for another week, wouldn't you say?
It had better. Don't dab sugar on unconscious people's lips.
If you've dabbed anything on an unconscious person's lips, tell us anyway.
We could have you arrested.
We're the talk of the street at gmail.com, and we're at Corrie Podcast on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. You can shout me and Helen a coffee by heading to ko-fi.com, that's ko-fi.com/the talk of the street. Check out the clicky section of voggle.co.uk for links to our merch store and YouTube channel. And if you're so inclined, please leave a rating and a review on the iTunes or your podcast provider of choice. And remember, if you buy us a coffee, you can get a free book.
Maybe.
Thanks for making it to the end of another episode. We'll be back next week with more
Talk of the Street.
The Talk of the Street.
Bye.
Cheerio.